Good morning. I think that we are starting the broadcast, and actually, I debated whether just doing a podcast or a video cast. But I guess if I do this, you can choose to be doing other things and not watch it. But for those of you, some of you have expressed that it really is helpful to be able to view while you are listening. And so I'm going to be doing Chapter 4 for the form from our book, The Literacy Coach's Survival Guide. And again, I'm going to have to be referencing some notes that I have while I am talking with you. And I realize the lights are a little bit reflective, but here we go. So this chapter was called, What Are the Qualities of an Effective Literacy Coach? And I think that's one of the things that people often ask themselves. And I know with the TLC grants that schools are getting and adding leadership positions, more people are going to have the opportunity to be able to do this. And so what are those things you would ask of yourself to know if that's a good match for you? And some of the questions: how do I know if I have what it takes? Why won't teachers learn what I think they need to learn? How can I become expert enough to do this job? Why do some teachers seem to resent me when I'm trying so hard to respect them? And finally, how can I get teachers to trust me? So for the overview, it says it examines the importance of the coaching relationships and trust. And it's really broken down into 3 categories. And a lot of these things are kind of no-brainer kinds of things, but still, it just is very distinct. So the first category, it's hardly ever about knowledge. And I think this is one of the questions. I know in my own building, we had an instructional coach come to us several years ago, and her only teaching experience had been at the middle school level. And so there were people that said, how can she come to an elementary school and be effective when her only experience is at a middle school level? But what we came to realize, even though this is not directly about a literacy coach, about someone that it really was about instructional practices and strategies, and it's been a great match. It's worked very, very well. And so it really isn't necessarily about the knowledge. They have 4 key points that they say. Many literacy coaches make the mistake of believing if these teachers only knew what I know, then they'd be the kind of good teacher that I am. I can't imagine any of you, just the way I know you through our class, would ever have that mentality or that attitude, but there are people that think that that's true. If knowledge were the essential component to behavior change, then we'd all be different. Knowledge alone does not lead to change, and knowledge is to coaching like a car is to driving. It's what propels the activity forward, but it won't happen successfully unless the person behind the wheel is skilled at steering it. And so the whole point is, there's not a single person, not you, not myself, not anybody, that can be knowledgeable about everything they would need to know in the area of literacy, that could answer every question, that could model every strategy, that could problem solve every struggling reader, that could enhance and push content reading, that could do all of it. And so it's not really about the knowledge. Do you have to have knowledge? Absolutely. Do I feel I was successful because of my knowledge? Again, absolutely. I felt like when I went into my literacy leadership position in my district, what I had going for me is people already knew me. They already trusted my expertise in the area of literacy, and so they already looked to me as someone that could do that. So the second category talks about you're not the expert. And I think this has some really key things to think about. The first one just says that many coaches think they need to be content experts in order to be good literacy coaches. And again, we just talked about that. There's no way that you can be. Elementary is one thing, but as you get into the middle school level, you are only working with people that teach pieces of content. And so they're not just teaching reading per se, like at the elementary level. And so absolutely, there's no one that could be an expert in science and social studies. And even I've come to learn, like, let's take social studies, for example. You have people that are experts in like history, world history, American history, people that are experts in government, sociology, economics, but you have people that are not even in the social studies arena that would not be considered experts in all of those areas. So many coaches think they need to be experts. Nope, they don't. There's no way they can be experts for every student in every classroom. Kind of just to address that. The people who have an easier time coaching are generalists. So those are the people that really have a good, solid knowledge base. They have a lot of common sense, a lot of knowledge about some about everything. I mean, enough that they could help have an intelligent conversation or know the right questions to ask or build that partnership. Trying to be an expert can be damaging. Um, they know. They know that you're not an expert in everything. You can't be. And so trying to pretend that you are kind of takes away some of your credibility. When coaches present themselves as experts, they're gonna respond by either believing or not, and most often they think that that's not the case. When teachers see the literacy coach as an expert, they will fail to live up to their expectations. And so there are those teachers that think, okay, fine, you're the expert, you know everything, you come in, you just tell me what I need to do, and I'm just going to do it and regurgitate. And that's not what we want. We want to enable teachers to do that. The teachers will fail to acknowledge their own expertise. If they feel like they have to turn to you and rely on you for everything, they're not going to believe it of themselves. And so very much so, we want them to be empowered and able to do things. The next bullet, when teachers dispute the coach's efforts to appear to be an expert, that communication, you never, ever, ever want it to become a power struggle. It's like, I'm going to equate it. I've mentioned several times having a student teacher, and one of the things I always say to any college student that I work with in my classroom, or even beginning teachers in a mentoring situation, one of the biggest mistakes I think you can make is to draw a line in the sand, because when you put a line in the sand, what you've done is you've set it up that someone has to win and someone has to fail. Nobody truly wins in that situation. So once you've set that line, you feel like you can't back down. And once they've set that line, they feel like they can't back down. And it's a no-win situation. There is a risk that teachers who doubt the coach's expertise, they're going to be watching for those mistakes you make. Something that you say, and we all just will say things that we don't intend to say, or we don't mean the way they come out. And so they're going to be watching for that, which is not a good thing. That next bullet talked about a rehearsed explanation that the author of this book suggests, and you can read that quote to yourself. So the bottom line is the message a coach should get across is that you're in this together, that you each bring some expertise to the situation, and jointly you can make it be the best that it can be. Before the conclusion, the final section is true respect. And I really want to comment on that first bullet, because when I went back and read it, I had to go back into the text and say, okay, why did I write that and what exactly did I mean? And it's often what is referred to as respect by educators and coaches means being friendly and polite while manipulating others into doing what you want them to do. I think do-overs, I wouldn't have worded it exactly that way, because that doesn't sound like someone that I would want to work with. But what it really means is, let's say that I go into Katie's second grade classroom, and what I notice is that she is never allowing time for independent reading. Kids never have time. They're busy with her, with very meaningful work. They may be busy with other things, but they never have the opportunity to apply it through independent reading. And so what it really is talking about is, as I go in and I build a relationship and we talk about best practice, that while I'm kind of maybe under the table getting this piece in here, rather than going in and saying, you know what, Katie, you're really missing the boat. One of the components of a balanced literacy program that is best for students is independent reading, and I'm not seeing evidence. You need to do that. They're saying that's not what to do, but to come in and say, wow, let's talk about the things that are happening, and then kind of manipulating the situation by saying, okay, so when during the day would your students have a chance to apply what they're doing? And so you're kind of manipulating the situation for what is best practice, not just what you want. So I just really wanted to clarify that. If you're truly in a respectful relationship, you're going to try to find that balance between putting forth what you want or need, but also what the other person wants. You need to be a listener and a learner. You will learn more from listening to them and where they're coming from. Many times I was able to recognize quickly the fault in their thinking, or the weakness in their thinking, by listening to them, which was really beneficial. Respectful coaches ask good questions, provide resources, make suggestions, problem solve, and they need to have that respect. If they don't, they're not going to ultimately be successful. So in conclusion, it gives 3 essential qualities: attention to attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions, valuing the expertise of others and limiting your own, and true respect as reflected in a commitment to helping teachers meet their goals. These qualities are habits of action and habits of mind that develop trust. And so when you listen to this, and as you go through the sheet and you read those things, really think about yourself. I know that, and I think I've mentioned maybe in the last class, or I've said before, probably one of my personal biggest challenges was I feel like I do have a lot of expertise. I'm not the expert, but I have a lot of expertise. I have a lot of experiences and a lot of ideas. I'm a very creative problem solver. And so when teachers would talk to me about situations, sometimes instead of truly listening to everything, in my mind, I was already kind of creating like what I was going to suggest, and I had to learn to step back, truly listen to them, clarify that I understood what they wanted, and then move forward from there. So going back to the initial question, what are the qualities of an effective literacy coach? And be asking yourself continually, where do I fit into these? Thanks.